Welcome to the Hawkcast, produced by the Viewpoint, bringing you a view of students' lives here on campus. I'm your host, Hunter Bergman, web developer and reporter with
Josh Krim, editor-in-chief.
In this episode, we will be talking with the business dean and associate business dean about the changing climate of business. Go ahead and introduce yourselves.
My name is Dr. Wade Herley. I am the Dean of Business and Technology Division. I am originally from Neely, Nebraska. Lived in Pierce also and graduated high school from Yankton High School. Went to college at Wayne State and did my grad work at the University of South Dakota.
I'm Shawn Tillotson, Associate Dean of Business and Technology. Grew up here in Norfolk all my life. Spent about 10 years in Lincoln. That's where I went to school the first time around. I went to UNL, got my business degree, and then quite a bit later in life, went to Wayne State, got a teaching certificate and degree, and ended up Northeast Community College in HR, and just recently, from the last 3 years, moved to this position as the Associate Dean.
So you guys have had like previous business experience kind of prior to this. Can you want to go ahead and talk a little bit about that?
Sure. Most of my background is business, pretty heavy business. I went to work for Peter Kiewit Construction out of Omaha when I graduated from Wayne State College with a business degree. Moved all over the country with them. My first job was we were one of the contractors on a job out at Yucca Mountain in Nevada. It was a $2 billion contract, so it was a pretty big job.
Wow.
Worked for them for about 4 years. Worked with Kiewit doing the level 3 fiber optic build out throughout the country in Baltimore and Little Rock and Omaha. And then after that, I went to work for an entrepreneur out of Omaha, Nebraska. She owned, at the time, 5 hair salons in Omaha, so I was helping with her payroll and helping with her business director, I guess is what you'd call it. Learned a ton. She was a great entrepreneur. She made an excellent living from those salons, had a great business model. I was extremely lucky to be able to work with her. The experience of going from a large multi-billion-dollar international construction company to what you would call a small business in Omaha was interesting. It was quite a shock to the system, but it was fun. Learned a lot. She was Entrepreneur of the Year for the metro area back in like 94 or 96, something like that. Great opportunity there. After that, I had a rhyme or reason to why I did that, because I wanted to own my own business. So I ended up purchasing a couple of general nutrition centers down in Florida and went down there. I was looking for a business to do myself and just happened to come across those. I was looking at a couple up in Wisconsin too, and the ones in Florida came up just before I was about to buy the ones in Wisconsin, so I went to Florida instead of Wisconsin.
Seems like a little bit better climate.
Yeah, a lot better. It was fun. Got down, hit the market about right in 06, 05. Some of the marketing, I guess the marketing plan that I designed and unleashed down there, it created, it worked really well. The dynamics of that market today are much different than they were when I showed up. Didn't have near the competition. I had the big box, like Vitamin Shop and Vitamin World stores already there, but I didn't have Max Muscle and all those other stores to compete against. And now,
Amazon probably.
And Amazon and bodybuilding.com. And now there's so much competition. But one of the funnier things that I remember down there, just a story if we have time.
Of course, yeah. That's what this is about, stories.
So I get down there, and of course in Fort Myers, Florida, they have all these city codes. You can put a sign here and you can't put a sign there. It has to be a certain type of sign that you can put up there. So we have them up here. We have those little corrugated plastic signs that you put on like the wire stickers and stick them in your lawn, and you see them for garage sales and you can buy them at Menards. So we went down there, and those weren't really down there yet. And so I ordered, I don't know, like 1,000 of them for my first run. And I took a couple hundred out and just put them all over town. And a couple days later, I noticed, they're gone. I'm like, well, wind blew them away, whatever. Put them out again. And I was at the counter in my store, and I was doing inventory, and I see this guy come in, and I could see he just looked kind of agitated. So he came in, he held up one of my signs. He's like, "Is this your sign?" I'm like, "Yeah." I thought, a customer. And he's like, "I'm with city code enforcement. You can't put these signs up."
Oh, no.
"And if you do it again, I'm going to come back and I'm going to fine you." I'm like, "All right." So he left, and it was like about a week later that I went and did my rounds and put my signs out again. And a week after that, or no, it was like a day after that, I see him park in the parking lot, because glass front on the store, and there wasn't anybody in the store. And I could see him from quite a ways away. He was red-faced. He was coming in. He opened up the door, and he started shouting at me from the other end of the store. He's like, "I told you that if you put those signs out again, I was going to come in here and fine you. I don't know why anybody would do that. I specifically told you that it was going to be a $500 fine." And then he got to my counter, and I didn't say anything. And he's like, "Do you have anything to say?" I said, "It's not personal, is it?" He's like, "No." I said, "Just doing your job, right?" He's like, "Yeah." I said, "Give me the ticket." And it felt like about a minute. He just stood there and stared. And he looked at me and he said, and you could see the redness come out of his face. And he's like, "I've never had anybody react that way to getting a fine." And I said, "Well, it's not personal. So you're just doing your job. Give me the ticket." So he wrote the ticket, set it on the counter, and just kind of thanks and walked out. And so I paid the fine. I kept putting the signs out, and he never came back. And in fact, like the signs that would either blow away or code enforcement would go around and pick up, I started taking a Jeep with a ladder in the back, and I'd go up high on the signs in the median, and I'd poke a hole in those corrugated signs and zip tie them up high. So if you showed up with just a car, you couldn't get to them. And then the wind couldn't blow them away. But I bet the difference between those signs and me not putting out those signs was probably about $20,000 a month. So there is no way a $500 fine was going to prevent me from putting those out there. It just
That's
one
incredible.
one of the lessons that he had no idea what kind of money I was making on it. But at the same time, he's like, "If I come back again, I'm going to have to give you, it goes up every time up to $1,000." And I paid the $500 fine. I never did see him again, and I didn't stop doing the signs. It was funny. So, yeah, that's one of my stories from Florida.
Yeah, any more what's your best moment as an entrepreneur? What's your best moment, and then what's your worst after that?
I don't know. In that situation, for me, because I did a franchise, and I was warned by other business people about doing a franchise, because this contract that you have to sign it looks like the old Webster's dictionary, if anybody's seen that. It's really thick. So you're really signing your life away. But I had a business plan that I could overlap with their plan, and I could make it work. What I found out is that it's difficult to get into a franchise contract. I found out it's even harder to get out. Basically, what happened is they have the right to change their contract however they see fit. So my business plan was allowing me a specific level of margins for products I was bringing in. And you had product that you could buy from them at a certain price. But I also had third-party product that I could bring in on the side. And then I was eventually going to go into manufacturing my own product, because then your margins are really high on product that you can get a higher price for anyway. But they, it was really fun getting into it and getting my own business. And I had two right from the get, or actually I bought one with one on contract. And then everything happened so fast and business was going so well, within 3 months I bought the second one. And then there were two more that came up for sale. So then I got those two on contract, and then I was planning on buying them within 2 years, and I had to buy them within the next 3 months. And then there were three more that came up on contract. So it was a snowball going down a hill, and I couldn't keep up with it because I couldn't keep good people. It was a revolving door. I had a few family members, cousins that were there to help me, and some friends, but then outside of that, I had to hire outside of that group, and I couldn't build that trust, and I didn't have time to train them correctly, and so I got too big too quickly. And so it was like, yeah, I got my own business. This is awesome. I'm on my own. I'm making, a lot of money at the time, and I couldn't keep control of it. So it was like a double-edged sword. It was awesome. I'm on my own, but oh my God, this is spinning out of control. So best and worst is kind of combined with, yeah, this is awesome. I got my own ship, but now it's too big and too fast, and I can't handle it. And it.
So what was one of the ways you dealt with that and then went forward from there?
One of the ways that I tried to deal with it, and it was a colossal mistake. Because of the market down there with employees, the construction industry would pay a lot more. But I'd tell them, okay, yeah, you can go work construction, but you're in 105-degree heat. And here you're in air-conditioned. All you have to do is babysit the store. It's not hard. And then I'd pay commission. So if someone was motivated, if they wanted to manage the store, I'd give them about $50,000 at the time to manage the store plus commission. So if they were really motivated, they could knock out $80,000 a year running a GNC. And I thought that would motivate people, but it didn't. They were okay to settle for I think at the time, $9 an hour. And then the commission never really motivated them. And I tried utilizing a type of fear in them, and they just gravitate towards other things. And you have to find what motivates people. And I found the things that didn't. And there were some that I don't think I could have. And those are the ones that I should have let go in a manner that, like, I had a person interview with me and I thought he had the characteristics of a great salesperson and a great personality, outgoing. I'm like, wow. I said, you're going to make a lot of money because you're going to get a lot of commission. And he came in the next day completely drunk. And it was like 9:30 in the morning. I'm like, this is your first day on the job. He's like, yeah, I'm ready. Like, you're plowed. Did you even go to bed last night? He's like, no. Like, goodbye.
Did you fire him, or you just tell him to
right
go
there.
home?
I told him, there's the door. Just keep on going. Like, lots of talent, and there was nothing I could do. I couldn't have it. First day?
Yeah, that's not a good impression for sure.
Right. So it's like, get out. And a mentor of mine in business told me before I even got the stores, he said, you've had a lot of good schooling and background and education, but you're going to learn more in the first 6 months than you've learned up to this point. And he was right. There were so many things. Like, you have so much stuff that comes at you, you don't have time to say, oh, no, I'm not going to take care of that, and I'm not going to take care of that. You just handle everything. And then when I finally got untangled with all of that, I took my cell phone, I pulled the battery out, and I threw it in my nightstand. I didn't touch it for 4 weeks, and I didn't have a landline.
Jeez.
I unplugged, and my parents were like, what are you doing? And that was through some friends of mine down there that they just kind of emailed or whatever. I'm like, I'm fine. I'm just unplugging because I'm out. And like, my cell phone was ringing all the time. Like, even at night, I got calls at 3 in the morning. Are you the owner of such and such store at whatever address? I'm like, yeah, why? Well, your front glass has been kicked in, and we think there's some stuff missing. That happened at least 4 times that I was down there.
Jeez.
And we had it on video, which is another funny story, because the kid took this rock and he threw it at the corner of the glass in the door, and it shattered the door, and then he kicked out the bottom glass and went in. And he found the safe. We had a safe, but what he didn't know, it was a little safe, but what he didn't know It was a little drop safe, and it was bolted to the floor. So the camera on the cash register, you could see him struggling and pulling on that thing and hitting on it, and it was hilarious. We're all in the back room watching it, laughing. But at the same time, I'm out sweeping up, glass in the front of my store at like 5 in the morning, and people are walking by at 5:30 going to the grocery store. What happened? What do you think happened?
So that was a pretty big problem?
Right. Not really. I mean, I was down there for 6 years with those stores, and I mean the break-ins were probably 4 or 5. The one in Naples that I had 2 stores down there. The one in Naples actually, there was a steel door, and it was one of my former employees, I think, because only specific product was taken. It was a steel door. He must have hooked it up to like a chain and got a corner and just ripped that steel door out of the hinges. It was $1,500 to put that thing back.
Jeez. So did you just take a loss from that, or was there
it was an insurance claim, but with the product that he took, it was, I don't know, like $25,000 claim.
Goodness.
I mean, and that store was big enough. I had $180,000 worth of product in it, so
That's
or
crazy.
150, something like that. It was a big store, but it had to be because Vitamin Shop was right across the road. So, but
Nice.
anyway.
A little bit of experience. So let's move over to you. What kind of led you up to your transition into education?
Into education? I guess when I was working the business side of everything, which is what I thought I wanted to do, I was coaching at the same time. I was coaching soccer at the high school here in town. So about 10 years, and I thought, well, I really enjoy this coaching. So, and I was always doing it as working and coaching, so I had to change my schedule around a lot. And then I got thinking, well, I might as well just teach, and then they really work with your schedule. So I went and got a teaching degree over at Wayne, and came back, and I thought, well, I'll get a job and I'll coach and everything will be hunky-dory, right? Well, didn't get that job, so I came out here to Northeast, and Steve Morton, an old instructor of mine, who was the associate dean at the time, called me up and he said, get out here, I want you to teach. And I said, teach? I never taught a class in my life. I go, I know I have a teaching degree now, but he goes, yep, you'll be fine. So I came out and taught an Info 1100 class, so I taught Microsoft Office class. So, and then I did that for almost a year, and ended up getting a job with HR here at the college, and a year after that moved into the associate dean position because there had been some shifting since that time.
What was kind of your best moment of that,
My best moment?
or maybe your favorite moment?
It was kind of funny because I had applied for the associate dean position, and I went in and Wade called me in, and he says, come talk to me. And he was real serious and like professional that day, which he's always professional. But so I knew we were going to talk about the job offer, but to be honest, I thought when I was first talking to him in the first about 2 or 3 minutes, I thought he was going to let me down and say, we thought about you, and we're going to offer it to someone else. And I think I even told him that day, and I said, from your looks, I thought I didn't get the job. So really about that point in time when he said I got the job, it was really it was a blessing. It was a change for my family at the time because my wife had then just quit working after 8 years at Scribner High School, and we had decided and kind of looked at our finances to see if she could be a stay-at-home mom for a couple years. So that was about 3.5 years ago. So things kind of work out a little bit differently.
Definitely. What's one reason why you kind of, I know you said like the scheduling and things like that, but is teaching more of, would you say, a passion to you, or like, are you doing what you love now versus, in the business side of things? Was it a little bit different?
I can remember coming out of high school, and even friends of mine would say, well, you should be a teacher. And I never really paid much attention then because my family were all entrepreneurs. So I'm just going to be in business the rest of my life. Why would I want to teach? But as I look back, and it's kind of weird when you look, back, you kind of see little hints in your life that led you to where you are. And as I look back at the jobs that I did have, almost every single job I had in the past involved training in somehow. I mean, I had always risen to a point where, well, you're going to train this person, or we need you to be a trainer, and ultimately that's teaching. Well, then couple that with the soccer history that I have, it kind of has always pointed me in that direction. I just never really paid attention, I guess. So, yeah, in the end of it all, it's really, I enjoy the teaching. I've always enjoyed coaching, and teaching's a lot like it.
So what do you think your moral of the story was from that? Kind of follow your passions, or?
I think the moral is kind of, follow your passions is a good one. Don't expect things are planned. You may think you got a plan, and it's great to have what you think is going to be the plan, but also expect it's going to change. And it's going to steer in different directions that maybe you didn't expect, because that's how life is. So I tell a lot of the students that just first come talk to me about, well, what should I look at as a career? What should I do? I'm in this or that. And I said, hey, today it might be this. 5 years from now, it might be something else. And 5 years from that, it might be something else. You got a long life, and you're going to have a lot of opportunities and a lot of time to do different things. So I say explore it all if you can.
That kind of leads us into our next little bit of a next topic, I would say. How do you guys see the atmosphere of business changing with technology, such as like graphic design, like web development, or mass media? Are you seeing that that's becoming more prevalent, and the skills that are needed are becoming more in demand?
Yes and no. Especially for us. When we get students here, it was a while ago when I was an undergrad student, but not that long ago. Especially a business student, and you get in that gear where you have this plan in your head, and you want to graduate, and you want to just set the world on fire, and some things, as you learn, you have to wait for some things to come to you, and especially that experience. And everybody looks, well, I'm going to come out of school, I'm going to be the next Mark Zuckerberg. In fact, I'm going to drop out of school and do that. How many Mark Zuckerbergs are there in the world? There's one.
Barely one after what recently just happened.
Right, he's getting torched on Capitol Hill right now.
Yeah,
it's a lot of fun to watch.
Yeah, live on TV.
Right. And especially at this level, at the community college level, students have to remember that, you have to have that gumption to want to go after it and be aggressive. But at the same time, you got to remember your age too. And there's no substitute for experience. So as we look at all this technology coming out the pipe, and all these new things coming out, and yes, the more you can learn and utilize that, and your guys' generation is so much better than mine. I can, kind of turtle around and use it and kind of get through it and figure it out. But you guys were born with it, and you're so much more intuitive with it. And so, I hesitate to invest too much time in learning a new product if there's going to be a 2.0 next week. I'm like, God, how much time do I want to invest in this? But your generation's much more intuitive with that. But the problem is there's basic building blocks that you have to know, or you have to learn and know and understand. That's where you start. You can't start on the fourth floor. You got to start on the ground floor. So if you have those specific building blocks and you lay out that foundation, and you take the time to lay out that foundation, you can only build as high as your foundation will let you. So if you have those, and then we wrestle with that all the time, especially at this level, when most of our students are right out of high school. We do have non-trads that come in, but most are right out of high school, pretty green. To the ones that are aggressive and want to go, you got to kind of get them to understand they need to have a little bit of patience, and it's really hard to do when you're that age. But they also have to have that ability internally that, hey, if this is a good deal, I got to strike now. Like, what if Zuckerberg decided to continue on at Harvard? Oh, terrible career choice, right? You know,
Yeah.
so if he had determined that, well, I got to stay in Harvard because it's Harvard, it wouldn't be where it's at today, or he wouldn't be where he's at today, for better or for worse, however you want to look at that. But for us here and our students here, we need to look at those building blocks and make sure that you guys are getting the core things that you need. All that other stuff is going to come. And we can, be progressive about what technologies we bring in, what we want to spend our limited resources on to help you guys. But at the same time, the art of the actual deal is, sometimes when you're sitting at the table in a business meeting doing those negotiations, there are some operators out there that they are tuned in to every little thing you do, how you place your hands on the table, if you place them here, if you place them out here. When you sit down, do you take up a lot of space and command the space? And too many people sit down at those meetings and they're doing this, or they have it faced up and they're looking at that and looking at that. So that tells me that you're not really in tune to what I'm saying. I'm not maybe as important as, depending on the situation. If we're looking at a business deal, it's for $500, whatever. If we're looking at a business deal and it's for $50 million, you better have somebody else on your payroll checking that phone, and you better be in tune with who you're talking to. So, like, you look around here, and people with cell phones, and even with regular conversations, if it's a super important conversation, what if your friend, you have a friend that's opening up to you about something really serious, and you're on your phone, so you're half paying attention to them. What is it telling them?
It's also very distracting too. If you're having a conversation with somebody and they're on their phone, it's almost irritating to
Right,
me.
or if you go into a meeting, all the devices that show up, and people are on their laptops and on their phones and everything. Well, how important is that meeting if they're all trying to multitask? And everybody likes to put that out there as this great thing. Who do you know is an excellent multitasker? I don't know one person that can truly multitask.
I don't know, Melissa does a pretty good job for us.
She's about the best I've seen. But when you're really talking about what they talk about in interviews, can you multitask? Well, most people can multitask, but if it's really important stuff, it's going to be a train wreck. So there are some components like that I think are lost, especially when we depend. Like, I can't believe how dependent I am on a smartphone. Like, when they first came out, it's like, what do I need to carry my email in my pocket for? The cell phone was great, just make calls on. And why would I need to text? Well, I found out the efficiency of text messaging. Wow, if I had only had that when I was starting up my businesses, it would have made everything so much better. But we still had, we didn't have the full keyboards where you could real quickly get out a message. And so, yeah, it's just some different things like that. But at our level, I think it's just as critical to stay in touch with the old-fashioned building blocks, basic building blocks of business, and those things that you need, and the communication skills for face-to-face communications, as it is to be open to new technologies. That new technology that comes down the pipe might be the difference between your $100,000 a year business or your $100 million a year business, and it's never been truer than at this time right now. That one thing could make all the difference, and with social media, could explode tomorrow for you. So it's interesting times, and we have limited resources, and we try and do our best, but to tie the old with the new is something that we try and focus on greatly.
Do you want to talk about your internship a little bit?
So, what me and Nancy have been talking about, I got an internship at
Mitchell, South Dakota, working for Trail King as their video guy.
Yes.
And so, like, a couple, like, 5, 10 years ago, like, you'd prepare students to say, get ready to move to, like, a bigger town instead of sticking, like, where they're, like, actually, where they're born and stuff like that. But now, like, there's more jobs that pop up for people to work in smaller towns. There's, like, a lot of video jobs are popping up, and like, so you used to prepare students just to get ready to move and stuff like that. How would you prepare them now? Like, do you encourage them to look at smaller towns and stuff like that? Or
Absolutely. That's part of our mission here at Northeast, is to make sure that, you know, we're preparing the workforce for our 20 county area. It's great when we get students that, you know, get a job in Omaha or Kansas City or Minneapolis, and the hope is that you go there and, like me, you know, boomerang back. I went out, got that experience because at the time, you know, I'm single. Why not just go out and you see the other side of the fence? And, you know, we grow up here and we think that, wow, you know, I'd really like to live in California, or I'd really like to live in Florida or on the East Coast or wherever. And, you know, right when you graduate college, that's an excellent time to go out and do that. But there are also way more opportunities here now. We have an entire workforce here in the Midwest that's retiring out. There is nobody coming behind them. There are going to be great opportunities to make a great living. There is no better place that I've ever lived, and I've lived a lot of places: Las Vegas, Little Rock, Arkansas, Baltimore, Maryland, Fort Myers, Florida, Omaha. There is no better place to raise your family here. I mean, that's a perspective that only happens when you have your first kid, and then you're like, wow, I do not want my child growing up in Las Vegas. You know, it's a great place to visit, but it's a harsh environment, especially when you're talking about a toddler. Or in Fort Myers, you know, you hop on the registered sex offender site, and the dots that come up in your neighborhood, it's scary, you know, and, you know, bad people live everywhere. But at the same time, if you think about how you grew up here, and I know I'm skewing off of the question here a little bit, but if you know how you know, your childhood here, it was pretty good overall. And so it's an amazing place to raise a family, but we want to keep our students open to the idea of staying here. Like, this is the workforce that we're supposed to be, our mission says we're supposed to build, the one that's here. Now, if that means you got to go to Omaha or Kansas City and get some experience and come back, absolutely. But for like your job in Mitchell, that's the free market in business. When you say, you know, small business, okay, it's a small business in Mitchell, South Dakota, but how much money are they driving into that economy? It's not thousands, it's millions that they're bringing in. So for that business to come in and say, hey, you know, let's hire this great big marketing firm out of Minneapolis. Why? You know, oh, we're going to do a multi-million-dollar campaign in South Dakota. You know, they're going to hit, there's 700,000 people, or 800,000 people, so, you know, in South Dakota. When they could hire you, you can do videos, and you can do the audio, and you do good videos. That's the other thing we were talking about earlier. Like, everybody thinks they can do a video. No, everybody can't do a good video. You know, yeah, you can grab the home camera or your phone and go make a video that bounces all over the place with bad lighting and bad audio. But if you do it well, and then you understand the audience that you're going after, and you can make that video go viral, so their expense on that is whatever they're paying you. It's not, well, we're going to pay this company out of Minneapolis, you know, $1 million to come up with this cool commercial and this video and this whole campaign. It's you. And it's coming up with some neat idea that goes viral. That's very powerful. I mean, social media is free, so businesses, of course, all over it. What's the advantage of a small business? They can maneuver, they can go after things like that. And it's pretty neat. And so for media arts students, I think that's a pretty neat thing. And I think it'll become more and more like that here for us, because, you know, what limits you on social media for advertising or getting the word out about a product or a service? The world. I mean, you can hit anywhere. and it's super powerful. And I mean, they're probably underpaying you for that, but
That's right.
but show your worth. And I mean, that's the thing. The free market will show up because you show your worth and they're not paying you. Company down the block's going to figure that out and be like, hey, we hire so-and-so. He's going to come down here and he's going to kick up our sales from $1 million to $10 million. And we're going to have to pay him, $150,000 for what he does.
Yeah.
And that'd be kind of cool. I mean, that's a really big money generator. Like these small communities, what's the one thing that is the catalyst for the small communities in our area? The one thing that you can put in that town and just light the whole place up and just do an economic boom. What if somebody out of Pierce came up with the next Facebook and decided that, you know what, we're going to build it right here, all of it, instead of Silicon Valley. And those jobs are going to be, what if there were 100 people that were going to go to work for that company and they were all going to make $250,000 a year? What do you think that would do for our economy here?
That would boom it.
Right. It'd be crazy boom. I mean, it'd create a whole bunch of other problems, housing and just, it'd just go bonkers. But really what I mean is just the one thing, like, you can't have, a Walmart showing up it's going to be, it's going to create some jobs, but that entrepreneur that comes up with his own idea that, look what Blackburn Flag has done for kneeling. Good and bad.
Yeah, good and bad, but you could almost say that that's one of the drivers of, all the other businesses there, too. People that creates jobs, like you were saying. And
right, they spend their money. They don't want to drive to Norfolk to buy groceries,
and
so
good
they go
jobs,
to the grocery store there. Or, the banks out there, and all of that stuff works together. It all feeds off, one another. But, what if Blackburn decided to pull up? And what if Johnny...
Or outsource.
What's that?
Or outsource.
Yeah, or outsource. Like, we're going to start making our flags over in China. Or, or some financial institutions started pulling out. Or, any of those companies just, I think I'm going to move to Norfolk. Or you know what? We're going to base our business out of Omaha. Or something. And it starts to eat away at those small towns. And some have done well. And, I think relatively so. I think Neely's done all right, considering. There are other communities I've seen that have been hit really hard with that. So I think, with like your position at Mitchell, I think that's an excellent kind of evolution of the business model in those small towns. Now they really have that channel or that arm to reach out and grab a bigger market without having to, how many companies are going to do a multi-million-dollar campaign and reach out there with their product? Like, what if somebody, in some foreign country sees that video, likes the video for some odd reason, then hits the translate on it? Oh, yeah, I need that product. So.
You said hit the translate button, too. That's revolutionary in itself because, there used to not be a thing where you could just, translate it to something else. That breaks down the barriers of
right, Mandarin's hard.
Most definitely. Yeah. We wanted to kind of transition into talking about the business diploma. You want to go ahead and talk a little bit about that?
Sure, absolutely. Chime in at any time on.
Oh no, I'm just fine.
The business diploma. Let me go back a little bit. So with our IT degree, we went with the Stackable Certificates, and those Stackable Certificates are designed to be kind of like a backstop. We had too many students coming through that would get to a certain point, and life happens to all of us. They couldn't make it through. So they'd transition out, and then 4 years later, they'd want to come back. Well, classes change, and when classes change, that means you're starting back over at ground zero, and especially in IT, they change a lot and quickly. What we want to do is, get them to at least the certification, so at least they have some credential walking away. So when they come back, they have a starting point where it's not just at zero and they start all over. And those stacked credentials work really well. In business, the whole business diploma model, it's different. And I thought about it for, I don't know, a year and a half, just kept rolling through my mind. I was looking at our concentrations, and I was looking at, we had a concentration in insurance and a concentration in real estate and a concentration in banking. And I didn't think that was really doing the students justice because, at the time when they were built, there's nothing wrong with it. Everything evolves, especially in business. But the way they were built, and I was looking at it from a business standpoint, where's the value in this? Like, what gets the best value to the student? So I reversed it. Like, let's focus on, if they want to do a 2-year degree, let's focus on the business general. That's your foundation. Those are your building blocks. You can go anyway with that. And then let's put banking cert, insurance cert, real estate cert. And then let's build them so if they're like 21 hours, that you don't have to take all 21 hours. Because some of those classes are built within the degree. So instead of 21, maybe you're taking 9 to tack that cert on top of your business general. I think in business, or I believe in business for a business degree, you need that fundamental stepping stone there, the fundamental foundation that you can build upon. It's just the nature of the beast. There are certain things you have to learn before you got to crawl before you can walk, and walk before you can run. And so I felt that it would be a more added value to it if it was a basic, because we have a lot of students come in, well, I'm not sure what I want to do. So they go through the insurance or the insurance concentration, and then they go into something else. Or banking. I mean, banking, if you want to go into banking and you want to get into the money, you're going to have to go your associate's degree, and then you're going to have to get a bachelor's degree. And it's okay to do the AAS and then go to bachelor's degree or the AA. I mean, they both work. People get tripped up on, well, I'm going to lose, these 2 classes, they're going to transfer. At this level, you're talking $600. If you go clear through your master's degree, you're talking $60,000. So, where do you want to be in 5 and 10 years is really the question students need to be asking. You want to be a VP of a bank? Fine. Yes, start here. You can save a lot of money. You can save about $20,000 right out of the gate by starting here first. Transfer to a 4-year. Continue on your business degree. And then you're going to need to get your master's. So between your business or your bachelor's degree and your master's, probably need to get some experience in there. Then get your master's degree. Then you go into the bank, and hopefully you can either get an internship there and work your way up there. But banks are looking at you like, how much do we want to invest in you? If you're a bank up in Hardington, and you have some young person come in and say, well, I want to work at your bank. Yeah, you want to work at my bank and get the experience, then you want to pull up roots and move to Omaha and double your salary. But I have to invest money in you. I have to send you, there are banking schools that students go to. One's the Sheshanoff School of Business in, I think, Colorado or Texas, and then there's another one up in Wisconsin that they go to. But they're like a week at a time, and then you work throughout the year on projects with your cohort. But they're $5,000 a week. So a bank's going to invest that time in you and other professional development, and they're going to spend, I don't know, when you're a fully loaded loan officer and you're about to become a VP at a bank, they probably have $100,000 worth of training in you. And then you're going to, I'm going to move to Omaha and double my salary. Kind of leaves them hanging in the wind. So, when I was looking for value, what is somebody going to, look at for banking? If you do that business degree and then you get that banking cert, you're going to get a few classes that will help you with that transition into that bank. But then, then you're going to have to do some other things to move up. Real estate and insurance, it's all about getting that license, real estate license or insurance license. Without those, you can't do anything. So the theory behind that is the business general degree is still a good thing. That's your fundamental degree. And then you put that cert on there that helps prep you for those tests that you're going to take. And hopefully you do all that. You're successful in your tests, you get your license, and you can practice or you can do real estate or do insurance. That was kind of the method behind the madness on those degrees, but it's flipped. Those certs come at the end of it instead of the stackable cert. But I think that business general degree, the core things in it are too important to, move away from, to get into concentrations that early on. A student can get into that business general and then decide on one of those certs later. And it doesn't hurt them any. They'll still get a couple classes in each one of those certs, so they won't have to take the full cert to tag it on at the end. It takes a little bit more time, but if you're looking at that type of concentration, it's going to help you with the insurance test or the real estate test.
Now, was that kind of your thinking with the drone course you guys are adding to?
That's a whole nother animal.
With the drone course, it was a little different because we had to wait on regulations to decide where that pathway was going to go. So, Wade spent a lot of time basically watching what the feds were going to do and laws they were going to create and where we needed to be with it. And then I think ultimately we ended up being a drone class that could be done on several different areas like ag or utility line in business and various different areas. So it seemed to work out better that way rather than, I think when we first looked at it, it was a full program we were trying to create out of it, but because of regulations, it didn't really seem feasible.
In my entrepreneurship class, probably 2 years ago, I actually created a drone business plan for my entrepreneurship class. And that was, you had to get your, it's been a little bit, but you had to get that certain license for commercial to fly commercially. And then don't you have to have another person there with you? Or what did the regulations end up being?
Yeah, you probably know more than that. I know you have to have your pilots.
They had one time they said you had to have your pilot's license to fly
for like
a plane.
like a private pilot's
Right,
license.
that's ridiculous. You're not flying a plane. You're flying a little piece of plastic. Completely different. But you do they got rid of that, and you do have to have a license through the FAA to, and you actually test it there. For here, you have to test down at their center down in Omaha. But we sent Mr. Anderson up to a drone professional development type activity at a school or up at University of Wisconsin. We didn't even really know what it was, really, other than, hey, there's a drone opportunity to learn. And so we sent him up there, and he was up there. He was the only person from a community college. Everybody else was from university or from, like one guy was there from ABC, an affiliate out of like on the East Coast. And so there were about 30 or 40 people in there, and there were a lot of like big companies that sent their people there. So there's Brian from the community college and out of Nebraska up there, and he's like, this is great, I'm going to learn a ton. And it turned out to be great. And then he came back, he studied for the test, went down to Omaha, took it, got his official license. So we kid him now, he's out flying on campus. We're like, sir, do you have a license for that? And he'll pull it out. Yes, I do. But the problem with that one is the FAA was so used to the traditional way of technologies coming out, and they could very methodically and very slowly, kind of plan. Well, when drones came out, Amazon was like, we'll wait for a little bit. And then they're like, yeah, you know what? We're just going to go ahead and start selling these. And they were selling like 100,000 units a week. And then it like doubled, and it doubled again. And so the FAA is sitting there going, okay, so these things are all over the place, and we have no rules, and nobody's listening to us. So it was like business overrunning. Finally, entrepreneurs were just saying, you know what, do whatever you need to do, but I'm going to be over here flying my drone. Because I'm not going to wait for you. This is ridiculous. And it was. But they do need some safety parameters, because there's invasion of privacy issues. There's airspace issues. Like if you fly the thing, like the one we have isn't that big and it's not that expensive, but you can fly it up to like 4,000, 5,000 feet if you want to really get up there. But we're supposed to stay 400 feet and below. But don't really want to fly that thing up there and have a plane hit it. I mean, there's a ton of space up there, and the
there's
likelihood
no need for it.
right, the likelihood of that happening is very small. But at the same time, you want to operate it in a safe manner. You don't want to throw it up in the air and have it hit a plane, and God forbid if it would cause a problem with a plane
And really hurt somebody.
right, and
or
really
kill
hurt somebody. Or if the thing falls out of the sky and hurts somebody, or you fly it into a little kid's face or whatever, those propellers will cut.
They're like, it's like a weed eater.
Yeah,
Almost. I mean,
right. And some of those blades are carbon fiber, so they'll take the tip of your finger off, and they're spinning at 9,000 RPM, so it's not good. But if you operate in a safe manner, you know what you're doing, and yes, you have that spotter. You need to have line of sight right now, and you need to have a spotter. But at some point, with the software they have that helps you fly, in the virtual reality, you're going to be able to fly first person, as if you're on that drone.
And
flying.
sensors too.
Right, and sensor like obstacle avoidance software and stability. Like the first drone we got connected with 3 satellites, it was crazy. We flew it in the broadcasting studio to contain it. I flew it immediately into the TV stand, and it's grinding up against it, and we had to shut it all down. And then the next one we got, it connects like 16 different satellites. So you can let go of the controls, and it will just sit in the air, and it makes adjustments for the wind. It's like you set it on top of a telephone pole. It just sits there. And so super stable. So the technology is really moving forward fast. And the FAA, they're doing their best to stay in front of it because, there are ones that can lift significant weight. And, if somebody wanted to do something bad with it, they can do something bad with it, just like anything else. But I think they're getting their rules to where they're manageable and they're logical. Prior to that, pilot's license, I'm not flying a plane. It's a little drone.
Yeah.
So, but the whole idea behind that was I had people here that wanted to know exactly what my plans were with it. Like, I don't know. Why don't we get it here and see what it does? And higher ed, they don't like that because it's the entrepreneurial spirit. And a lot of people will tell you, we're doing things in an entrepreneurial way, or we're doing this or that. There's no way. I will state this to anybody that asks. There's no way to replicate that. You either step out on your own and you do it, or you don't. I mean, you can theory it and you can say what happened and what didn't happen, but there isn't a person on the planet that can tell you that, your idea won't work. No, they're basing off past history. How many ideas were shot down because somebody, that won't work? How do they know? And so when they ask me, well, what are you going to do? Are you going to build a class, a program? I don't know. How about we buy one and see what it does? And finally, I just bought it, got it here, and I said, Brian, fly it. Tim, see what happens with it. Every time we put the thing in the air, students come out of the woodwork and instructors come out of the woodwork. I'm like, we should probably figure out something to do with these. And so we were trying to build a program with it. But the problem is okay, so is this going to be a drone certificate or a drone diploma? Or the market here isn't there yet. So we're like, okay, we'll put it through the CFE for non-credit. Well, no, how about we put a 2-credit class together and Brian, can you build it? He's like, I think I can build it. So he built this awesome course, and it's going to be great. And we haven't made it a requirement in any course, but we put it in where we can use it as an elective in some areas. I think it's going to be, dare I say it, fun.
No, it's not allowed in education.
Oh, wait. We're not allowed to say fun.
No, we don't do that.
No, fun, because then it's like, what kind of fun is it? Is it fun that wastes taxpayer dollars? No, you have to have, when you can infuse a learning opportunity and an educational moment with something cool that's coming down the pipeline, that's the perfect scenario. Students can have fun and they can learn. God forbid.
That's the interest.
Right. So we're very much taking a risk with it. I think it's a calculated risk. I'm hoping to fill that class for Brian and then see where it goes. Do we add it to a program? Maybe. I'm certainly want to put it out there as an elective. I think there's an opportunity through the CFE. I think people are interested. They don't really have an idea. We just need to make sure that we have that course built in a way, and I think Brian has done it, where you get what you need to know out of it. You need to, safety, definitely safety-wise, and get some experience on it.
The reading of the maps, the knowing where you can fly, those things.
Right, there's
all
a
really
ton.
important. Yeah, it all comes back down to that safety piece, which is going to be required if you go work for somebody, because then now you're a liability. If I'm the drone pilot, and that's going to be the first thing your employer is going to say, okay, well, we got this drone and you can do all these great things, but it's a liability to me because things could go wrong. But I think you're seeing it more and more, and like Dr. Herley said, with the technology, I mean, just in the few years that we've gone from, and you've seen the different things that they can do with the technology, it's amazing. Imagine where we'll be in another just short 5 years with the technology of it and the cameras on it. I mean, I can put infrared camera on it. I can do heat,
Thermal.
yeah, thermals, and I can do X-ray.
Yeah.
I mean, there's so many things that you can do. So you're talking, now I can inspect a bridge and see where it's really at as far as stability. A utility lineman can inspect lines and see where they're hot, without having to climb them or risk somebody's lives. Insurance agents can go do assessments without climbing up on roofs, and it's just so many different things that so many people have not even really thought about what they can do. So now the value of that person coming out of here, out of Northeast, with your guys' degree, or somebody utility line, or in ag who has also that pilot's license for drones. Now you've just became a pretty big value to that company that they maybe didn't even know it right now. But in 2 years, when this really does probably take off, now all of a sudden I'm looking for people like you guys that have that drone, license, and I needed you yesterday. Well, Northeast is going to provide that instead of, well, we'll get a program put together.
So would you guys say you're kind of ahead of the curve then for it?
Yeah, I think we are. I mean, it was presented to me that we were behind the curve because Southeast they already have a drone class out of the gate. So I was like, wow, really? They beat us to it? And when I investigated, I found out that it was a ground course. They weren't flying. The students weren't being able to fly in the course. So it's like, they're not flying. That doesn't count. Because it's different than you think. Like when we first started flying them, it's just different. Especially when you're, if you're the pilot, you're looking at the iPad for the screen and what you're seeing, and you're trying to stay, aligned up with the drone and where it's at, and it can disorient you very quickly. And so you have a spotter or even two spotters to help and say, well, you're getting a little this way, you're getting a little that way, you're going too fast, or you're doing something that maybe you shouldn't or you should be aware of. But after 10 minutes, 15 minutes, you don't realize how tired you are because you're so tunnel visioned into what you're doing. And if there was some other danger around you, you'd never know it. So the spotters are good for ground danger too. Like if you're going to step off a curb or something, or a car's coming, because you're so in tune with what's going on, you kind of tunnel everything else out. So it's just different. But one of the things you brought up with putting a man up on to inspect a bridge or on a utility line, like when I was working for Kiewit, one of the biggest things, safety. They fly. I mean, they're all about, at the end of the job, there were a lot of people getting bonuses, and they really prided themselves on estimating a job to where they could get the bid, but get the most profit. And they are the best in the world at it. I mean, they are so good at what they do. But they drill safety into everybody's head, because if one person, and they're dealing with heavy equipment everywhere, the biggest stuff you can imagine, one person dies, when all's said and done, it's $500,000 that gets cut out of that job. When everything's wrapped up, it might be even more today. but because of insurance costs and payouts to families and the investigation and the time that the job shut down, everything. That was 20 years ago. $500,000. You can just go ahead and chop off that job.
Wow.
For one person. If, let's say, a crane maneuver, that's why they pay the crane operators so much, because that's the most dangerous thing that happened on any job site was a pick. Whether it was small or big, man, it was all hands on deck, and everybody better be watching, better be doing something right. They do that pick, but let's say you have 10 tons in the air and you drop it, you kill 3 people, $1.5 million gone. Just to start.
And that crane operator can be
in prison.
Yeah.
Because we had one collapse up at, well, I shouldn't say we, but Kiewit did in one of their divisions up in Canada. And the crane operator was operating in a wind that was a little bit too high, and he didn't have the load calculated right. He went to prison because somebody died underneath that load. It toppled and killed some people. And so, yeah, he ended up in prison. It's a big deal.
So safety's, going to be, I mean, you're talking a drone to do something like that, they'll spend thousands of dollars on that drone and an operator because it just saved them thousands of dollars, right? Yeah.
Right. I mean, if it's a $50,000 drone and you run it into a tower and it blows up or ruins the camera, it's $50,000. Yeah, that hurts, but that wasn't a man up there, a man or woman that got electrocuted or fell off the tower, and it's probably about right. $500,000. Boom. You don't want to put that into dollars and cents because it affects the families at a much higher level. But if you want to put it in dollars and cents, you can just go ahead and $500,000 gone.
Yeah.
So,
and that, like you say, like the $50,000 drone, and now they're coming out with drones that are $800 that go in your pocket, like the new Mavic Air.
yeah.
It goes in you can put it in your pocket, walk out the door, and you would flying in like 30 seconds. But like with that drone, it competes with those higher up drones. And like by a business standpoint, I think that would just be no brainer. Like, why spend the extra when you can get an even smaller one and maybe get closer to what you're inspecting too? So.
Right,
Yeah.
right. They'll only get better.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And they already used it, you look at military. I just had it was funny, we advertised, our drone camp that we're going to do in South Sioux City coming up here. So I had a friend of mine send me a picture of him, he's in the military, standing by his Predator drone. And he says, my drone's better than yours. And I mean,
It was big.
yeah, it's a big drone. But if you really think about, they're getting that great education already in the military. So if you look at it, you asked, are we ahead of the curve before? We're actually probably a little bit behind the curve when it comes to the military, but we're ahead of the curve maybe when it comes to the industry or the education because, or if we're not ahead, we're right with. So I think we're right where we need to be.
It's exciting for me as a student because my mom entered this raffle like 2 years ago and won this sweet DJI Phantom 3 drone.
Nice.
And
Nice.
I've had the opportunity to fly it over Niagara Falls. That was exciting. I've flown it over like the Niagara River too. I've flown it off, flown it over lakes and like other things, and it's just like, it's exciting, but safety is a big thing too, and regulations as well. You are not allowed to take liftoff in any national park at all because they don't want people.
No fly zones. Right?
Yeah, yep.
Messing with the wildlife and
you
other
can
people.
you can lift it up outside of it and fly it over, but you can't lift up in it because for whatever reason.
And I don't know, like Austin said, like they're just getting smaller and smaller. I know NASA's working with something right now, essentially like robotic bees to rove around Mars right now. Rather than having the rovers up there, it'd be a swarm of small little drones like the size of a bee to go see that stuff. And that's something they're in the works right now talking about because it's about kind of making the forward to moving maybe human life towards Mars or what we can get out of Mars. And I just know that they're just in the development of that now, and it's just kind of broken in the last few days. That.
Well, I wonder if that has something to do with, I had heard something about using drones or the size of bees to pollinate as well because of the lack of bees in anymore. So, it's amazing where the technology and how much smaller they're making it and what they're able to do with it.
So it's such a broad
processing
thing you
power and
really
everything they
can't.
can just put inside that stuff. It's just.
Well, look at
I've got that little one in my office. It's about the size of like a matchbook. It's real tiny, but
No
it's hard to
control.
control.
Yeah.
You know, it goes right up to the ceiling, and like when the blades fly off, they're hard to find because they're so small. It'll hit the ceiling, the blades will go flying.
Oh, look at what Lady Gaga did. Was it the Super Bowl that year with all the drones and
Yep.
for entertainment?
Didn't they had to pre-film that piece of it?
Did
I don't
they?
think they couldn't do it live over the crowd.
Because
Live
you're
over
not
the
you're
crowd.
not allowed to fly
Fly
over
over
any type
people.
of people. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought it was outside the stadium, but
Now at that one game at Fresno State, Fresno
Yeah.
State had a drone flying out above their team as they were coming out on the field, and that was before all the regulations came out.
Well-
Brian and I were just like shaking our heads, like, I mean, I know the football players have helmets on, but what about the
Yeah,
the
everybody
50,000 people in the stadium? If that thing goes into the crowd,
Well, I mean, if that could work, just think about like the future of sports and like us viewing it with different angles of drones, watching different games and stuff, and being able to follow the ball in whatever game or sport it may be. They could do that, but then
They
there is
could-
the safety
or
issue.
follow a specific player. Like they do
Yeah.
have the
Yeah.
drone that you can hit follow,
Yep.
and you got, I think it's a wristband or something that you
Oh,
take
yeah.
off running, and it follows you. So if you had a specific like soccer player, then, oh yeah, I want to follow him during the game, they just follow
get the
him.
quarterback view of the entire game or something.
And that, and then there's like another one. It's got like 16 different cameras on it, or sensors, one or two.
Yeah.
And there's like no controller for it. You just have an app on your phone that you use. You turn it on, and then select the subject, and then it just follows them. It'll avoid everything.
You
And
also have the 3D camera, the 3-dimensional cameras,
Yeah,
where you
I
can
think-
just move your phone. Like it's not one camera pointing this way; it's all cameras like
yeah.
around you. So then you can just use your phone.
And seeing all
So
the
then-
different angles.
everything.
If someone's got a drone that
I'm
they're
trying to
like,
get
you know,
that
sitting
incorporated.
downtown, there,
That
oh
would
yeah,
be cool.
follow.
That would be cool.
And they follow someone, then right to privacy. It's
Oh,
public
yeah.
sidewalk, but do
Mhm.
you really want a drone following you down the sidewalk?
No.
I mean, it'd be annoying at best and threatening at worst.
Yeah.
So
Well, if you're doing your YouTube blog, you got to have 24/7.
Mm-hmm.
If you're a Kardashian, you probably love it.
right, got my little drone to
Well,
follow me.
The thing with following is, or like with maybe police work in the future or military and such, as like, or they have that route, or they could use it for safety in that way to follow a suspect without endangering an officer or
Or what
whatever the
about,
case may be.
Like a place that's hit by a hurricane because
Yeah.
all the power lines come
yeah.
down
Being able
and
to see-
you can't get in or out to like send drones in to do an assessment.
Yeah.
Like where the power lines are down and where people need help. And
I hear money.
right, if you can build it,
Well, I had heard
the world is your oyster.
They said, during those hurricanes and things, they'd take drones and fly in the life jackets and things where they'd be able to, and they
Drop
were
'em.
able to locate people without sending people into that. When it was, pretty rough still.
But not even money though. But think of the lives that could
Humanitarian work.
Yeah,
Oh yeah.
philanthropically, you could do a lot.
Right, if you could drop
Search and rescue.
drop meals
Yeah, search
in
and
there
rescue.
to
I just-
supplies to people.
I just saw this thing where if somebody's drowning or stuck in something, they can fly this over. It has a rope, and you can literally just hold
Pull
on
them
to
out.
it, pull you up and out.
Quicksand,
That's a big
right?
drone.
Yeah, it's a big drone. I doubt they'll be able to fly it for more than probably 15 minutes or whatever. But
Right.
Well, imagine if there were drones, there wouldn't have been that famous OJ chase with all the cop cars chasing. It would have just been one drone following that Bronco.
Follow.
yeah.
All right, everybody, back off.
Yeah. Well, and that too is pretty important because think of how many police officers, you're driving and
Manpower.
stuff. Yeah, manpower. I mean, you have one
Well,
little
they
drone that
say-
can secretly follow them.
Well, yeah, high-speed chases in large populated areas, they say, is a real big problem. So, yeah, that would...
Well, the field that we filmed the planning out here, it's 142 acres. I couldn't believe how fast we could cover that. I bet you could cover that in 5 minutes with a drone, and then get the look at the land and figure out where the water's flowing and how it's shedding off, and good and bad spots in the crops. 5 minutes for 142 acres.
Have you seen the drone
Sport.
racing?
Yeah.
That's so cool. I try to
Especially
do that
when
with
they
my
crash.
drone, but yeah, I try to do that with my drone flying around. But one time I was getting real. I thought I was doing good, and I flew it into my garage, and the DJI is a decent size, whatever. And I flew it into my garage to spook my brother out or whatever, and
Then pull back and fly out.
yeah, exactly. I did. I got it in there or whatever, and then it stabilizes itself. and you can't see, because I was outside, you can't see where it's at. And so
Right.
it clipped part of the garage door, fell down or whatever, whatever. So I picked it up, grabbed it outside or whatever, and I was good. I thought I was good. And blades, propellers were intact, whatever. So it's like still spinning because you can't just shut it off, And so it was still spinning, and so like I let go of it, and it tried to auto-correct itself, auto-balance itself out, went right into the side of my garage, and then chipped all my propellers and everything. I was done.
Yeah. There's still some improvement to them, but
Definitely.
I think, like I said, in 5 years, can you imagine where they'll be?
Right.
Definitely. Is there any more advice you want to give to like students or anything like that before we wrap it up?
No, it's, the biggest thing, especially in B&T, it's for our business students is, the traditional student, just, patience and do the work here. Put that best foot forward so you have the momentum working for you. I mean, all about that. You came here and just went after it. And there's too many students show up and I'm just kind of going to put some effort into it here. And all of a sudden, you get a D and an F and whatever. All of a sudden, that momentum is all working against you. So it makes everything so much harder. Like if you just, I know that from experience because of my undergrad, I mailed it in. I had no idea what I could do academically until I got to grad school. And the panic that set in when I realized how much money I was spending for grad school and how much money I was losing not being in the workforce, and combining those numbers, I was like, wow, I better be getting A's here. So I wish I could go back and do my undergrad and, push to see what I could actually do instead of just, I'll just do the minimum to get through. That was a mistake.
If you could wrap that up in one sentence, how would you condense it into one sentence?
Into one sentence, do not be afraid to challenge yourself. Like when you get into your undergrad, high school even, do not be afraid to challenge yourself. I mean, if it's easy, step it up. Why would you want to just do the minimum? Like, you'll never see what you're actually capable of unless you push the envelope. And biggest thing, especially in business, no fear of failure. Like, you're gonna fail, and that's okay. Like, the people that have come before you, people have lost billions of dollars. So if you go out and lose $50,000, so what? Pick yourself up, figure something else out, move forward. Just, you have to lose. And it's funny that Scott Frost is the coach of the football team, and now he brings back that no fear of failure. I think everybody in here probably understands, but when they hit that field in the fall, it's going to look like a completely different team. Just that one component alone was helpful, but they're doing a lot of other things. But I want you going full tilt. Full tilt. If you fall down, if you make a mistake, if you mess up in business, if you got to declare bankruptcy, so what? Sometimes there are entrepreneurs out there that put that scar on their shoulder like a badge of honor. Like, yeah, I declared bankruptcy twice, and you know what's in my bank account right now? $20 million. They don't care. Like, there's nothing keeping them down, ever. They'll just keep getting up, no matter what knocks them down. Like, if you go through, I have a tenacity picture of Lincoln, and you go through all the trials and tribulations of President Lincoln's life and what he did. Like, how many people would get to failure number 4 and go, oh my God, I'm a loser, I'll never do anything in my life? The only person that determines that is you. Like, you're only beat if you let yourself be beat. You just, okay, so I made a mistake. In this situation, I'm an idiot. I made a mistake. I learned from it. Now I'm moving forward with something else. And I'll take that next challenge. And the successful business people, there isn't one, your dad would be able to give us story after story of, well, yeah, that
Probably
was a
few.
mistake, but you know what? I turned that around, and he is where he's at because was he afraid of failure? I mean, it probably
He
motivated
was-
him in some way or shape or form, but at the same time, if he lost everything, would he be on the curb going, oh, shucks?
No, yeah, I think
He'd be working on his next thing.
just not giving up. That's the key to him. I mean, he'd probably be the first to tell you he dropped out of school in 8th grade, and but he's a successful businessman and has always been, but because he never stopped. But he'd be the first to tell you, I wish I had stayed and got my education.
Right.
Because that's something, that's a value that you can't, you get education throughout life. But to get that education and that diploma and that completion, those are another type of way to say I'm successful. You can be a successful businessman, you can be a successful person, and this and that, but you can also be successful with your education and bettering yourself every day. I think as far as advice to students today that I would ever give them is, you know what, you have goals, you have dreams, you have aspirations. These are all things that you can see and do. But ultimately, life is really measured about what kind of person you are when it's all over. People who are 80, 90 years old right now, they don't look back and say, oh, I did this, I did that, I did this, and I did that. They probably reflect more on the things that they regret or the things that they could have done better in their lives. So I think, ultimately, if I were to talk to students today, I think as long as you're concentrating on being the best person that you can be and trying to make people around you the best people they can be, you're going to be successful. It just kind of goes hand in hand. So I guess that'd be my 2 cents on it.
The other thing I can say about business, and you gain this only through experience, but the best way I can describe it is, do you guys water ski, or have you ever water skied?
Yeah.
So when you wipe out, what's the first thing you do?
You get back up and try
After
again.
you scream,
Well, when you wipe out, let's
Depends
say
how
you
hard
wipe
you
out,
hit.
do you hang on to the rope?
No.
No.
Okay, because if you hang onto the rope, it's just going to take you down. So, as a business person, you have to, and everybody's different, you have to determine when it's time to grab onto that thing like a pit bull and not let go, or, more importantly, when it's time to let it go and, kind of
then
contain
reset.
the damage and reset. That's I am not a master of that. I know very few people that are a master, but they're good at it. That they have this tenacity that won't quit, but they're also intelligent enough to know that if their project includes pushing against that wall, just to push against that wall, and that wall's never going to move, they're going to find a way to get around it. So you have to determine that point of, is this going to be fruitful if I just hang on for that one more second, or do I need to let the sucker go and cut my losses? And that's a pretty fine art, depending on the situation. So,
absolutely. I think going back to, you mentioned my dad. He's done things right, but he'll sit there and tell you all the things he's done wrong, and he'll also sit there and an even longer list. He can look back and he say, well, boy, if I'd have taken advantage of that, or if I'd have just taken the risk to do that,
Yep.
I'd have been in a way different position than I am now, even today. So the opportunities are there. I mean, they present themselves throughout your entire life. It's just it's whether you've got that entrepreneurship mindset is, I'm going to go after it. I'm going to take that risk. And if I fail, I fail. Then I'll take the next risk. So you can succeed, and you're going to have those doors open all over the place. So, and you guys are young, so you'll have plenty of doors open. And it's exciting.
Definitely. Opportunity is I mean, there's today even more than now, ever, probably, because you have LinkedIn. I mean, you have a good LinkedIn profile. You can have whoever contact you from there, and you might be in South America doing something you never expected you'd be doing, or might you might know somebody who's a good network connection. You network with them or whatever, and then you end up doing
Right.
something that you really loved just because you were friends with somebody you knew. You know.
Mm-hmm.
So, well, I appreciate your guys' advice. Thank you guys for listening to this Hawkcast. I'm your host, Hunter Bergman.
And I'm Josh Krim.
If you're interested in finding more out about the Viewpoint, check out our website, neviewpoint.com, and follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Also, check out our YouTube channel at The Viewpoint. Have a nice day.